Hello everybody and welcome to what is our earliest batch review ever. And to be honest, could have been even a little bit earlier. But you know, we had to get all the translations and stuff done, get the newest post done, so that all took priority. But we do in fact have the skills of all the Haikyuu characters translated. The devs have very kindly started updating their website, their blog, with that information prior to the event starting. I hope they continue to do that going forward because it makes my job a lot easier. And so we're just going to go through, take a look at these units, and I'll give you my brief thoughts on them and what I think of them. So let's start off. We have the dual unit, Hinata and Kageyama. This unit, I saw so many people, for some reason, thinking they were going to have double tap just because they were a dual unit. We already have a dual unit that doesn't have double tap. I know they have double tap on the Taiwan server, but on the JP server, Ryotsu does not have double tap, and I had no reason to believe that these two would have double tap because it just wasn't going to happen. That's what I thought anyway. Obviously the unit has come out, no double tap. Instead, similar to who is it on this server? It's Giorno and is it Kurapika? I think it's Giorno and Kurapika. Well, Giorno for sure. Anyway, this is the green reversal unit. I'm not the biggest fan of reversal as a gimmick. For those unaware, reversal does 50% of the difference between your current HP and your max HP as additional fixed damage. So there's definitely utility for it, because if you have very low HP, you can hit very, very hard. But it's hard to use it consistently, to get the absolute best out of it consistently. The way the way it works is good because it bypasses barriers, it bypasses guard, stuff like that, which is kind of why it made sense. You know, Hinata originally had barrier pierce, kind of made sense for him to have this, right? He is bypassing the defense of the opponent's team, so he will have some kind of fixed damage without having elemental damage, without having the specific bypass barrier, bypass guard, or whatever. So that's kind of cool, at least. And you know, I would say, like, I guess it kind of suits them reversal, like they're coming back from the brink sort of thing. They're about to lose a match and they win. That sort of thing. But you could really make an argument for any character to fit reversal within the scope of Shonen Jump pretty much. At least the protagonist and stuff, because it's a very Shonen Jump trait. It's something you see in a lot of their series. The character is on the brink and then they fight back and take the win. It's so common. So basically, if you haven't used it before, you can do crazy damage, because that difference between min and max HP can vary quite a lot based on your HP. So if you can stack your team with a load of HP in an optimal situation, potentially you can outdamage a lot of other limiteds that I would say are better. But getting into that optimal situation, quite tricky. Quite tricky. The passive, however, will make this maybe not easier, but it will make the unit useful beyond the special ability. Reducing the shock damage received by 4,300 up to 430,000 in tower, which is unconditional attack boost, which is nice. But before this unit's turn, convert 2 heart bubbles and 1 block bubble to rainbow bubbles. We like this a lot. We like this a lot just because getting 3 rainbow bubbles is very nice. Also has the additional bonus that is converting heart bubbles rather than converting another useful colour. I'm not saying it's bad necessarily to convert the colour, and sometimes the heart bubbles can be useful in and of themselves, but I would say when you're looking for damage, having those extra 2 rainbow bubbles instead of heart bubbles is going to be more useful. As a front line, quite good. I would actually say probably the best reversal unit. But again, I'm not a big fan of reversal. So I think it's 40% of the difference between the current HP and the max HP is potentially a lot of damage, and the base damage is already at 500, so the base damage is pretty good already. Got a standard 14% attack boost too. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. I just am not a big fan of reversal, which is a shame because I wanted Giorno so bad that I pulled for him anyway. But we're only missing 1 reversal now, or I think we're only missing 1 44% weakener. I think we're only missing 1 double tap, 1 copy, 1 normal attack damage booster. We're getting to an interesting point where we're going to be finishing off a lot of sets soon, I think. So it'll be interesting to see who fills those roles as limited. But while I didn't see it coming that these would be reversal units, I think it actually makes a lot of sense for them. It's quite good. It's as a front line, as a reversal unit, I think you could do worse having them in your team. Pretty good. The support, convert 1 random bubble to a skill bubble with 117% base damage and boost its blast radius by 1. Very nice. And for 3 turns, boost the ultimate attack damage of tank class team members by 30%. They're very solid support. Very, very solid. I mean, it's what we come to expect of limiteds. Not just giving you a skill bubble, but giving you some kind of additional bonus, and that is a powerful skill bubble and 3 turn boost of 30% for tank team members. Obviously, you have to account for that when building your team. But potentially quite good. And remember, it's ultimate attack damage boost, not attack boost. So tank team members that are doing damage based on HP and stuff like that will still see the benefit. Very, very good. Not a bad limit. Not a bad limit at all. But again, you gotta think a bit more about how you're gonna approach trying to get the best out of them. You're still gonna do great damage because of this, but maybe not quite as straightforward to get the best out of as, say, like a weakener, who's just gonna weaken, and you know you're gonna do loads of damage for the rest of your team members, so it doesn't matter. The same with buffers. You just gotta put them in the team. Moving on. We have the standard gacha, 3 new standard gacha units, and you know, I noticed this. Just an aside, not ready to do anything with the batch review, but they've released quite a few less standard gacha units towards the end of the year. If you scroll back to like the summer-ish time, we had events where there was 4 standard gacha units, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 4. And now it's like, you know, much lower numbers of standard gacha units. Kochikame had 2. Kimetsu no Yaiba did have 4, I think. Or 3? Did they have 3? They had Sanemi, Gyomi, they had 3. This event has 3. Bobobo had 2. They probably won't, I mean, there might be some for the next event. We're assuming it's a major ensemble, and I am going to do a video on that. I've left myself plenty of time this time. But that'll probably only have maybe 1 or 2, and then for like Christmas, New Year, maybe 1 or 2, like as a whole for the rest of December, probably maybe 3 or 4 total. So they release less, so that when we tick over to the next new year, we already know they're going to have loads of feature festivals. I can't believe I didn't notice this before. They had tons of feature festivals earlier in the year, and then they kind of started mixing it up later in the year. And it's because it's because all these characters are going to be added to the standard gacha pool. So they want these characters to be exclusive for longer. So they're giving you Shinoya in this gacha here. They know you're going to be able to pull him from standard 5-star tickets at the start of next year. I think it's like end of January. They're going to update the pools. He's going to be in there. But with the characters from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Feature Festival that's going to be early next year, and the Promised Neverland Feature Festival that's going to be next year, you're going to have to wait almost an entire year before they add it to the standard gacha pool. So that's how they get you That's how they've kind of cut back on the amount of units being released towards the end of the year. Because they can release loads of standard gacha units early next year. And you're just going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait for those ones. But for these ones, they'll be in the standard gacha pool. So I think that's why they've done things this way. I think that's why it's felt like standard gacha's taken maybe a bit less priority in recent months. I mean, we even had an event that had none. It had 2 limiteds, it had Kurapika and Rayleigh, no standard gacha. So maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. But anyway, the standard gacha units. Also, a lot of these units are balanced, which I assume is some kind of nod to the fact that they're volleyball players and they have to like stay on their feet or something. I don't know. But a lot of balanced units. We have Shinoya, who is red, obviously. You can see his stats and stuff there. He's an interesting front line because he is a support front line, which is quite a rare occurrence nowadays. He's a pure support front line. He doesn't do any damage other than normal attacks. So for 3 turns, boost the attack of DPS, balance, and special class team members by 28%. And for 3 turns, reduce damage received for DPS, balance, and special class team members by 800. Now the reason this is potentially quite interesting is because a lot of the time frontline buffers will only boost a type, or will only boost certain like classes or whatever. Yes, he is only boosting certain classes, but bear in mind, he is boosting attack, okay? So the only other classes he is not boosting are tank, which do not do damage based on attack, or some of them do, but they're typically not that good if they're doing damage based on attack. You want them doing damage based on HP if they're a tank. And if that's the case, boosting the attack doesn't help you that much. And healers, which are A, quite rare. We don't have many healers in the game. B, it's probably not going to matter if you boost the healer's attack or not. Because most of the ones that are healers that attack will do damage based on recovery anyway. They should be doing damage based on recovery. So, for 3 turns, he's essentially boosting the attack of all viable attack classes. That's kinda dope. He's also giving you damage reduction for those 3 classes as well. There is a very definite usability here, I would say. I don't know if I would say he's like... I don't know. I'd love to see him in use. I don't have him. I'd love to see how much you could use him. Because if you look at the way people use buffers, say for example... what's her name? Is it Yui? Yui Minamito? Something like that from Ichigo 100%. If you see how much damage people do using her, there is very much potential for these frontline buffers. The fact that you get a 3 turns boost, you do boost 1 turn, boost 2nd turn, boost 3rd turn. That's some big damage. That's some big damage. And he's giving you damage reduction as well, which I think is just a little added bonus, but at top stack, that's what, 800? God, I'm really bad at maths. 2400. It's not bad. He intrigues me as a frontline for sure. He also has an interesting passive, because it is based on the enemy's class. If the enemy is balanced class, reduce the number of bubbles required to create a skill bubble for this unit by 1. That's good. And when you connect 2 or more bubbles with this unit, recover 40 HP at the end of that turn. Really interesting frontline utility. He doesn't necessarily negate anything. He doesn't necessarily have any immunities. But he gives a certain survivability to your team and will help them attack more. And if you're up against a balanced enemy, only needs 6 bubbles to create a special. I would say it's... I just want to see it in action, really. I wouldn't say he's like a game breaker or anything, but he's very interesting for a standard gacha unit. It's a very interesting kit. I like to see them doing this sort of thing. The support recovers 6k HP. We like that. 6k is a good amount. Reduce the number of turns of weakening for red and green team members by 2. Very, very nice. And for 3 turns, boost the ultimate attack damage of red and green team members by 25%. 8 turn cooldown. That is fantastic. That is a fantastic support. The reason I say that is because on all the stages where I mean, I've said this before, on all the stages where weakening is a real issue, being able to not only get rid of that weakening, but also have an additional effect is quite huge. Now, normally the ones I like the most are the ones that are going to reduce weakening and give you a bit of orb manipulation. But the fact that you're getting 6k heal off of this, and a boost to your ultimate attack damage, and he can go in a red team or a green team for that purpose, that is fantastic. That is a fantastic support. And I don't know, he's alright. He might be getting copped with a choice ticket next year if I don't manage to get him before then. Let's talk about Kuro. Inflicts 438% damage for one enemy, and if the enemy has counter attack, inflict an additional 70% damage. For 2 turns, reduce damage received for green team members by 300. So counter attacks are not that common, so it's a bit niche. But to be a standard gacha unit doing over 500% damage and max skill is still pretty good. So he's, I don't know, how often do we actually see counter? That's what I'm trying to think, because it does have its odd appearance in PvP. There's still some people that use Odin, some people that use Deku. In PvE, it doesn't really feel like it's that common anymore. It did chuck quite a lot before, but it's very possible that it could be something we see some more bosses coming out with later. I would say it's okay. It's okay. The reality is, in the vast majority of situations, you're doing 438% damage and getting 2 turns green damage reduction, which is still not bad. It's still not bad. But that additional 70% potentially killer on his day on the right stage, that's a lot of damage. The passive, before this unit's turn, convert 1 block bubble to a green bubble, boost this unit's ultimate attack damage by 30%. The fact that he's got an unconditional ultimate attack damage boost of 30% is very, very nice. And on stages where he has the upper hand, I am assuming he's going to have the upper hand on Bokoto stage. I'm assuming Bokoto has counter. You're going to be doing quite a lot of damage, so that's cool. The whole, like, before this unit's turn, convert 1 block to a green, it's okay. It's just that I wish it was not block. I know that sounds silly. Obviously you want to get rid of block bubbles, but I will see far less use of it if it's block. You know what I mean? Like, you're relying on the stage having block bubbles to get a bit more out of him. I don't know. It's not like it's not useful. It is useful. It's just... or maybe if it was like 1 block and 1 blue bubble. And then you're at least getting 1 blue bubble. But then you're getting in the realm of, like, as good as a limited. So obviously they don't want to give you that. So it's okay. It's okay. The support, convert a heart bubble to a skill bubble, convert 2 red, blue and yellow bubbles to green bubbles, and for 2 turns reduce damage received for green tier members by 200, 35k in tower. Similar to... Wait, who has this special? Is it Camus? Camus? Is it him? I don't know. But you get a skill bubble. You get a bunch of green bubbles, actually. 6 green bubbles. And a 2-turn damage reduction. Only 200, but 35k in tower. It's okay. I don't really like these specials in tower, but it's not like they can't be used. They absolutely can. And what you've got to remember is, when they release one of these specials for each type, it might seem like, what's the point? But especially in PvP, when you're getting these additional stats from having certain characters of certain types on your team, it can be quite huge to have a character that is the same type, that is also providing a very good support, rather than having to put a mismatching type on your character. So, I don't know, it's it's a good support. It's a good support, potentially good frontline. I slightly prefer Shinoya, but still probably going to be very, very good for the Bokoto stage. And remember, Nishinoya doesn't directly counter anything as far as I'm aware. He is only for the boosting of the drop rate of volleyballs on that stage, the Setter's Way stage. So, it's... if you want characters that are directly countering something, Kuro is countering Bokoto, and Kenma's countering someone. Who's Kenma countering? It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Kenma! Inflict 400% damage that ignores damage reduction, and then inflict 15k fixed damage to all enemies, negate one attack up from all enemies. I'm not a big fan of fixed damage, but realistically, in a situation where you're up against an enemy with damage reduction, Kenma is ignoring that damage reduction, hitting for 400%, and then hitting for an additional 15k. Again, they have the damage reduction, so it is bypassing that because it's fixed damage, and you're negating one attack up from them. That's pretty good, and it's negate one attack up from all enemies, so if you happen to be on a stage with multiple enemies, you're removing one from all of them, although that's not as common as it used to be. That used to be a lot more common. But it does appear from time to time. That's a nice ultimate attack. That is actually quite a nice ultimate attack. As much as I kind of rag on fixed damage for just being like a shittier version of Elemental or Reversal or something like that, it's okay. It's okay. The passive, reduce the number of bubbles required to negate bind for this unit by 10. Boost the unit's ultimate attack damage. Oh no, wait. Boost the ultimate attack damage of balanced and DPS class team members by 8%. So he has a passive that supports his team members, balanced and DPS. Remember, he is balanced, so he does get the benefit of that. That's pretty cool. And negating bind, very good. Very, very good. We all hate bind. Reducing it by 10, pretty huge. Does he have any use on, say, Saga stage? I mean, he is blue and he does reduce bind. He's going to be boosting team members' attack or ultimate attack damage. I'm trying to think, is there a situation where Saga, like, puts up a barrier or something? I don't think he does. Which is a shame. But he does negate attack up. I do believe Saga has attack up at one point. Maybe. He's not going to be an optimal unit for it, probably not. But usable. Hey, he's usable. The support, for 2 turns, reduce the number of bubbles required to create a skill bubble by 3 for blue team members. I always like that. It's reduced by 3, but it's not for 1 turn, it's for 2. Very, very nice. And for 7 turns, boost the attack of blue team members by 10%. Somebody else was a 7-turn booster in, like, not in the Bobobo event, but in the event before, right? Or was it Epokomaru? I feel like it was one of the Kimetsu no Yaiba units. I might be wrong, but the 7-turn boost is interesting. It's definitely interesting. I always like the bubble reduction supports when they have some cool additional bonus. And a 7-turn attack boost is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I don't know. I quite like Kenma's kit all round. I think they've really given him, like, even though I'm not, like I said, not a big fan of fixed damage. Bear in mind, this fixed damage is AoE, so he's only doing 400% to the one enemy that ignores damage reduction, but then he's hitting all enemies for 15k, and they're getting 1 attack up from all of them. So that's cool. And the passive bind reduction, very, very nice. And unconditional ultimate attack damage boost for anybody that is balanced or DPS class in your team. Yeah! No, he's a really nice unit. For a standard gacha, he's a really nice unit. I rate that. As far as the standard gacha goes, I think actually, like, Kuro is probably the weakest. Just because of the counter-attack thing. Otherwise, he is a very, very good unit, regardless. I'm not a big fan of this either. But everything else is fine. And Nishinoya is... I don't know how good he actually would be in practice, but I would love to give him a test. I'd love to see what he's capable of at, like, maximum utility. because this is all very interesting. But regardless, even if it was just for the support, I love his support. He's cool. And I think, realistically, Kenma is probably the strongest out-and-out unit. Just because he has enough in his kit to make him worth using. But anyway, that's all the gacha stuff. Let's talk about the free units. Thank you, Jumputi devs, for even giving us the free units. They gave them all this time. With Bobobo, they didn't give all of them. They didn't give us Jelly and they didn't give us Hatenko, I think. This time, we've got the whole lot. So I can talk about this all early. Hopefully I get this up tonight and I actually get it out even before Hinata and Kageyama are available. That would be cool. So we've got Sugawara here. For 2 turns, boost the attack of green team members by 20%. And for 2 turns, reduce damage received for green team members by 500. So he is also a frontline support. So I guess they made the Libero and the Setter supports? I don't know. Like, because I know Kageyama was a support before. He was also a Setter. So that made... I don't know. I don't really know how they work it out. But we do have Sugawara. He has a frontline support. For a free unit, that's interesting at least. I'm not saying it's going to be good, but if you think about it realistically, how often are these like transcendent tier units actually being used for damage? Not that often. So if they're giving you additional boosts and keeping your team alive for a little bit longer, that's potentially quite good. Potentially quite good. The passive is a bit of a letdown. It's actually a lot of a letdown. it's a lot of a letdown. He has counter guard, 70% counter guard, but counter guard's like so. It's not that great. It'll again probably be good for Bokoto because Bokoto looks like he's gonna have counter, but in essence, counter has become something that is kind of not used because it's kind of crap. There was like early in the game, there were a load of characters that gave you counter, and it was so rare that they would be worth using. Meanwhile, we had like 4-star supports that were like far better. All they did was simple bubble manipulation, simple damage reduction, simple skill bubble creation, and you would far prefer to have them in your team over like top tier counter users. That's how bad it was. Deku was kind of like the renaissance for counter, because Deku for a short period was a force to be reckoned with in Tower. But then they released loads of units that were counter, and then like it just didn't get much support for ages, and then other things got way more support, and it just fell off again. It's just fallen off again. Admittedly, counter is annoying in the stages where it's like really prevalent, but it's rare. It's rare. So counter guard is whatever. Again, he's a free unit, so 70% counter guard's okay. But then when your HP is 65% or less, just over half, boost the attack of green team members by 7%. I can see what they're trying to do here. When you're low HP and you get a special off with Sugawara, he's going to be boosting by 20% and you're going to be given an additional 7% boost with the passive. It's not awful, is it? It's not awful. I just think if it wasn't counter guard, if it was bind reduction or something like that, I'd allow it. Because it's counter guard, I'm just like, nah, I don't care. I just don't care. No, fully usable. He is fully usable considering the fact he is like transcendent here. He is fully usable. I just don't think many people will use him in lieu of better options. You know? The support converts 9 green bubbles to blue bubbles, and for 3 turns reduces damage received for green team members by 1300. It's not bad. Good bubble conversion, 1300 damage reduction. And actually potentially very nice if you're trying to do like a stage where you're setting up lots of skill bubbles. if you have too many greens on your board, converting 9 of them to blue and giving yourself a bit of damage reduction could actually be quite nice. But it's okay. It's okay. All in all, for a Transcendent T unit, he's okay. He again, I'd like to see this in practice because we don't get much use of frontline buffers typically. But we'll see. We'll see. Bokoto. Bokoto, I am so damn disappointed about. He's one of the only units that I actually was like super looking forward to being added from this event. The others are cool, but he was the one. He was the one I really wanted. And I thought maybe he could be a limited, maybe he could be like a boost gacha, standard gadget, anything. He's a catastrophe. You know what? Catastrophe's okay. That's really cool. He's going to get a cool aura costume. It's going to be great. And they did him dirty. They did him dirty. As you can see, as I was talking about before, counter damage. He does counter attack damage. As I mentioned before, counter attack damage sucks now. So, I mean, maybe to an extent it's always kind of sucked. In like, realistically, you are not going to use Bokoto in PvP, regardless. But in PvE, counter sucks. So, where are you supposed to use this? I don't even know. His frontline, I don't like his ultimate attack. Let's just move on from that. His passive reduces buddy skill seal by 1. That's good. Boosts the unit's attack by 22% unconditional. That's good too. Why you gotta do counter damage? Why you gotta do counter damage? Give him something else, man. Bro, they gave Sana the shock. They gave Sana the shock and they gave Bokoto counter damage? Man, that's not cool. That's not cool. Support converts 4 heart bubbles to rainbow. Reduces the number of turns of counter for all enemies by 2. At least with the support, if you are up against an enemy that has counter, he is good. He can be used on any team as a support if the enemy you're coming up against is counter, because he's going to reduce it by 2 and convert 4 hearts to rainbow. The support is good. Again, counter's not that common, but if it does show up, he can at least do something about it. But ultimate attack and passive, even the passive is fine. It's actually good. The ultimate attack, why did you give him counter? Why? It's like, look, like, to be real with you, it's not like as bad probably as I'm making out. But I've never had a time when using a counter unit has been the best solution to a problem, except in PvP with Deku when he first came out. That was the only time. So I'm very disappointed in that. And I'm just going to move on before it makes me sad. We have Tendo. Tendo is, of course, who Kenma is countering. I was like, who the hell is a red boss in this? Tendo. It's Tendo. So Tendo inflicts 345% damage to one enemy, and for 1 turn reduces damage received for himself by 1500. I think we've had units like this before that did a self-damage reduction. 1500 is pretty high. It's obviously only for 1 turn. It's okay. It's okay as a front line. It's a hell of a lot better than counter, I'll tell you that. Potentially good for like survivability and stuff. The passive, guard, counter attacks. Guard, counter attacks. Why has everyone got counter guard? Unless you're going to release like a new stage where counter's like a nightmare, which to be fair they may do, I don't know. I just don't see the benefit of that. I just don't. And boost the unit's attack by 24%, unconditional. That's nice at least. As a front line, it's kind of mediocre. It could see some use, kind of mediocre. Support, convert 1 random bubble to a skill bubble. Good. Convert a total of 5 green, blue, yellow, heart, and rainbow bubbles to red. Very nice. Love supports like this. You're getting a skill bubble. You're getting 5 red bubbles. The only downside to a support like this is that it is also converting rainbow bubbles. Rainbow bubbles don't need to be converted. I need them to stay as rainbow. Replace rainbow here with block and you're onto a winner. But I think they don't want to do that with a free unit, which I guess I can kind of understand. But because it would be really good if it was block as well, because if there are no blocks, that just means you're converting more of the other bubbles. You're still not interfering with existing red or existing rainbow. It's still a very good support. Very, very good. So that's probably going to be his role. There you are. And I think we're actually onto the last unit already. Which is interesting because this event has less units than the Bobobo feature festival. Not only does it have less units, but it has more standard gacha. So even though it's longer, it's going to have like less events, or sort of. Rather a bizarre situation, I gotta be honest, because this works out at like a... I mean, let me double check my phone. I'm pretty sure this is like a 15-day event. My phone is dead. I'm pretty sure this is a 15-day event though. So, it's interesting. Interesting choice. Considering this, like, how... I don't want to say prestigious, that's not really the right word, but like... Just how huge, how popular Haikyuu has been. And how we're in the swing of like a major like season of the anime right now. I would have assumed they'd go a bit harder. I still think they've done some pretty good stuff with some of the units, mostly the pay-to-win units, but you know, it's weird, it's weird. Anyway, let's talk about the final unit, Yamaguchi. Inflict 300% damage to one enemy, and if they are DPS, inflict an additional 50. 350% damage is not a lot, but for a free unit, okay, sure, it's not a lot, but okay. In the passive area, he's reducing shock damage by 2200 and an unconditional 18% attack boost for himself. Again, as we mentioned before, Transcendent class units, you don't expect a lot because they're going to be quite easy to get. It's not awful. It's really not awful. It's just maybe a bit mediocre. You know? You're not going to be doing a lot here. 350% damage, you're not going to be doing a lot. But, okay, if the enemy is DPS class and they do inflict shock, you might bring him. You might. Not saying you will, but you might. The support, however, the support, very interesting. First 3 block bubbles. Very good if there are block bubbles. If there aren't any, just ignore that part. And for 2 turns, boost the appearance rate of green bubbles. Okay. 2 turns, boost the normal attack damage of green team members by 40%. This guy is Mugetsu Ichigo's little friend. We like this guy. We like this guy. He's giving you 40% additional normal attack damage boost for green team members. And he is boosting the appearance rate of green bubbles, which obviously you are going to want a lot of on a normal attack damage team because they do damage based on how many bubbles you pop. And he gets rid of 3 block bubbles. And block bubbles would obviously get in the way of you trying to do loads of normal attack damage with your big boys like Ichigo. This guy is a little bit special for what he is. Considering this is like a free evolver stage, you get him at 4-star, evolving to 6-star. For what he is, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. I'm very happy about that support. Like I said, the front line's mediocre. The front line is what it is. But that support, you know, that's not too bad. Now, the only thing we don't have on here is the Legend Summon. Sadly, it's not out yet. It's not going to come out for ages. But I figured it was better to just get up the information I know. And then, you know, if you want to know about the Legend Summon, it's going to be added to the database as usual. We're going to talk about it in the Discord as usual. We've got these new announcement channels in the Discord, which you can follow them into your own Discord so that my news posts and my character translations and all that stuff go straight to your Discord if you so choose. So definitely check those out because that's going to be good once we have the Legend Summon skill. It's going to go there just like all of these have gone here. So good to do. Good to check it out. And I don't know. Is there anything else that needs to be said today? Not really. I'm streaming on Wednesday again. Maybe we do a few summons. Maybe we mess about a bit. We're not going to go too hard. Because I am convinced we are getting a behemoth of an event for this winter. For 1000 days, for Christmas, for New Year. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever this festive event is going to be. I think it's going to be a big boy. So, won't go too hard. But I will stream on Wednesday. 4 till 6. Well, sometimes it runs a bit long. But we'll start at 4 for sure. And I don't know, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Kind of a long one. And I'll see you guys next time.